See, is everybody ready?
Yes,
All right.
we're ready. You bet. Thank you.
All right. Welcome everybody. Unchained Disciples. We're doing our series Seeking Wholeness. This is lesson 7 types of rest. 7 types of rest we'll be looking at. And I will start off with the introduction. Let's see. So how many of you have, when's the last time you can think of you woke up in the morning and you thought that I'm feeling fresh, I'm motivated, I'm inspired, and I'm rested? When was the last time that's happened to you?
Can't even imagine that.
You can't even imagine it. Okay. Yeah, so that's a rare feeling for most of us. A rare feeling for most of us. Even if we get sleep, we don't fully feel rested and motivated. There was a French mathematician, Blaise Pascal. He said, all man's problems come from the inability to sit quietly in a room alone. But we can't rest, and if we get an opportunity to rest, we don't take it. We don't take the opportunity. Pandemic, many of us had opportunity to rest, but we didn't. We were too worried to rest. I'll start off by reading Mark 6, verses 30 to 32. It says, the apostles gathered together with Jesus, and they reported to him all that they had done and taught. And he said to them, come away by yourselves to a secluded place and rest a while. For there were many coming and going, and they did not even have time to eat. And they went away in a boat to a secluded place by themselves. So the disciples came to Jesus, and they wanted to tell him about all the things they had done. They'd been out spreading the word, and they wanted to tell him about all that they'd done. But Jesus, he didn't, there's no record of him trying to give them any areas of improvement or giving them more encouragement or finding out if they had their theology right or giving them better tactics to draw a crowd or better public speaking tips or how to engage an audience or ask them, how many people got saved. All it tells us that he did was tell them, okay, let's go rest. They came together to tell him all that they had taught. And Jesus says, okay, come away. Let's go to a secluded place and rest. So rest was a priority. Rest was a priority for Jesus. Rest. Jesus, he was keeping good on his promise that said he will give you rest. He was giving them rest. And we also see God. It tells us that he used his voice. He used speech to create the earth, bring things into existence. He breathed into clay. He created man from clay and breathed into him. And then it tells us on the 7th day, he rested. It's like it tells us all of this he created, but then it goes to the point of making a point to tell us this whole day he rested. He made all the animals, in a couple of days, but he took a whole day to rest. God rested. So rest is something serious. Rest is something serious. And we also see it in Exodus 31, 14 to 15, which is the verse I added. Exodus 31, 14 to 15, God tells Moses, therefore you are to keep the Sabbath, for it is holy to you. Everyone who profanes it must be put to death. For whoever does any work on it, that person shall be cut off from among his people. For 6 days work may be done, but on the 7th day there is a Sabbath of complete rest. Holy is the Lord. Whoever does any work on the 7th day must be put to death. So God was serious about rest. It was something, it was a command. It's one of the 10 commandments to rest. The 7th day he commands us to rest. He doesn't command us to go to church. He commands us to rest on the 7th day. So rest is important. Rest is something that's important to God. And so today we're going to be looking at rest. We're going to be continuing to look at rest. We're going to look at the 7 types of rest. We started them last week. And so the 7 types are, first is physical, spiritual, mental, sensory, creative, emotional, and social. Welcome, Annabelle. So the 7 types of rest are physical, spiritual, mental, sensory, creative, emotional, and social. And we will be going through, in the lesson we'll be going through, let me put the outline in the chat. So first, that was the introduction. Then we'll be going over the traits of wholeness, refreshing on those. We're going to review last week's lesson, why you need to sleep. We're going to look at 7 types of rest. Then we'll talk about burnout, then physical rest, mental rest, then sensory rest, creative rest, emotional rest, social rest. Then we'll look at how to rest. And then spiritual rest will probably be the next lesson will be on spiritual rest, the whole lesson, or in addition to anything that's left from this lesson. All right. So here we go. Traits of wholeness. So we're in our series, Seeking Wholeness, as you know, how to be emotionally, mentally, and spiritually healthy. We have a lot of stresses in our life. And in addition, we haven't healed from some of the wounds and experiences from the past. God promised us eternal life, but he also promised us joy, peace, patience, and self-control here on earth. And he also promised us rest. But a lot of us aren't experiencing most of those, if any of those. So that's why we're in this series, to try to obtain all that God has promised to us. The traits of wholeness that we identified that we're moving towards are authenticity, honesty, kindness, not seeking external validation and approval, living by values and principles, setting boundaries. We had 4 lessons on that. Taking ownership of your responsibilities, living with purpose and passion, optimism, confidence, healthy relationships with others, not losing control of your emotions, being free from addictions. We had lessons on those too. Addressing conflict, vulnerability, not being critical or judgmental, not being jealous, forgiving those who've wronged you in the past, knowing that you're worthy of receiving love, not afraid to fail, able to manage irrational fear, worry, and anxiety. We had 4 lessons on anxiety. Having selfless encounters with others, not manipulating others, trying to control their actions and reactions. You care about how other people feel. You're patient. You don't give in to peer and social pressure. You can communicate directly. You don't take responsibility for other people's emotions, and you don't expect other people to take responsibility for your emotions. And finally, being led by the Spirit. Finally and ultimately, being led by the Spirit. Welcome, Kikwa. You look different a little bit, but nice to see you smiling. Let's see. So we will review. Now I'll review the lesson, last week's lesson, last lesson on sleep. So did anything? What stood out to you guys in the last lesson on sleep? What stood out to you guys, if anything, from the last lesson? What do you remember from it? Anything you remember from it? What stood out?
For me, I just have to remember about some of the actions that we take when you're too tired. And when it's all over, you're thinking, my God, what did I do? So now you try to analyze the time of the day and what led to the decision. Then you realize that you were so tired, it was kind of an emotional reaction to something instead of just because of tiredness. So the effect of not having enough sleep, enough rest. So that's kind of what stood out for me, the consequences, and you always try to take things back, but you can't. So you kind of remind me about trying to take care of business so you don't have to put yourself in that position. Right.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, you make irrational decisions and moodiness. Yeah, it's good. Anybody else? Anything stand out? Sleep or anything you remember about sleep. If not, we'll go on to Psalms 127:2. Henry, you have was it Henry? It was Henry. Psalms 127:2.
Yes, Henry. So, the honor of God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, as we read the scripture. Psalm 127:2 says here, "It is in vain that you rise up early and go late to rest, eating the bread of of anxious toil, for he gives to his beloved sleep."
He gives to his beloved sleep. So we want to take advantage of that sleep that he gives us. So as a review of the lesson, we talked about our biological clock. It's a clock we have. I forgot the name of it. It's actually a part of our brain that tells us when to go to sleep, tells us when to wake up, and it tells you where you are within the day. And lightness and darkness helps calibrate that clock. So the light and the dark cycles calibrate that clock. And the interesting thing when they said is you can actually take it out of your brain and put it in a dish, and it will actually turn on and off on a 12-hour cycle. So we have an internal clock. We have sleep stages. We have 4 stages of sleep. And we go through these stages every 60 to 90 minutes. So every 60 to 90 minutes, we go through these 4 stages, and we do it a few times per night. So the first stage is a transition between being asleep and being awake. The second stage is deep relaxation. The third stage is a deep sleep. And then the last stage is REM, which is a light sleep, and it's when you dream. We also talked about why you need sleep. During sleep, you process information, you consolidate your memories, you clear out toxins, you repair your tissue, you're rebuilding your metabolic, and you replenish your energy during sleep. So those are some of the crucial functions of sleep. If you don't get enough sleep, you're irritable, you can be moody. As Silva mentioned, you lose your inhibitions, you have problems making decisions, you have problems remembering tasks, problems processing information. You may overeat and gain weight. You have lower mental ability, higher risk of heart disease, your inability to regulate your emotions, and you're also an inability to fight off disease. So you become more susceptible to diseases if you don't sleep enough. And a couple of added notes. There's chronic sleep loss. So chronic sleep loss is categorized as if you have poor sleep, or if you don't get enough sleep, so enough being 5 to 6 hours or less, depending on the person, or if you get too much sleep, which is categorized as 11 to 12 hours a day or more, or if you have broken, choppy sleep. But it's not if you do it once. If you do that 4 nights a week, more than a month. So if you do any of those 4 nights a week, more than a month, then you're categorized as having chronic sleep loss. And it causes us an increase in the stress hormone cortisol. And so chronic sleep loss, the results of it are, number 4 results: weight gain. It can result in diabetes, shortened lifespan, and worsening your ADHD. So chronic sleep loss can cause weight gain, diabetes, a shortened lifespan, and worsen your ADHD. And so with the weight loss, it may not necessarily be with the weight gain, it may not be an immediate thing. It may also show up as an inability so you gain weight gradually over time, even though you may go on, some super strict diets, or you may do some heroic efforts trying to exercise, but you still can't lose the weight. So that will be a result of lack of sleep. And with diabetes, with the loss of sleep, it increases cortisol, which affects the way your body processes sugar. And so with your defective sugar processing, it leads to insulin resistance. And then insulin resistance turns to diabetes. So one of the I mean, there are obviously there are other causes, including heredity, but that is one of the causes of diabetes. So tips if you need to sleep better. So some tips are not drinking alcohol, not drinking or eating caffeine, getting in a regular rhythm of when you go to sleep and when you wake up, having a cooler temperature around 65 degrees. Don't take naps if you can't fall asleep at night. If you have problems falling asleep at night, then you don't want to nap during the day. And then not having screen time on your computer, on your cell phone, on your tablet right before you go to sleep. So at least, an hour before. If you're having problems sleeping, you can try those things. And if none of those work, well, not if none of those work. In addition to that, we'll see a technique that the military uses to fall asleep. As Chris mentioned last week, that when he was in the military, they taught him during a war how to go and sleep for 30 minutes and then go back to war. So it's an important tool that they need to use in order to fight, because war can go on for days. So you can't just not sleep. So they train them how to sleep, and they spend a lot of money researching it. So here's a video speaking of that after the commercial.
The magical all-in-one countertop kitchen robot. Subi saves you time and lets you cook delicious.
Do you have trouble falling asleep? In this video, you will learn how to fall asleep in 2 minutes. It's quite common these days to struggle going into dreamland once you lie in bed at night. Depriving your body of sleep during nighttime can result in numerous health imbalances. You find it difficult to concentrate on daily tasks, and you become irritable as you're on a constant emotional roller coaster ride. But you're not the only one fighting this battle, and this new technique you'll learn about in this video might help you become friends with sleeping well. US military forces have been using this method for a while now, and they claim that it helps you fall asleep in as little as 2 minutes. It's vital for soldiers to get a good rest so that they're efficient in their tasks. As a matter of fact, it seems that during World War II, many soldiers made crucial mistakes as a result of sleep deprivation. However, a new and helpful technique was presented to them, which made falling asleep easy, no matter what the environment. In less than 2 minutes, day or night, troops are easily falling asleep so that they get enough rest for their bodies. Before putting into practice this technique, there are several aspects to keep in mind. We're not in the military, so you can improve your chances to get a good rest through preparing your environment. First off, make sure your bedroom has no light or noise that might disturb your rest. If you're not comfortable with a completely dark room, you can use a low-intensity red light. This light is ideal for evenings because it prepares your system for sleep without altering your internal clock like blue light does. Another critical aspect to take care of, especially if you're really struggling with falling asleep, is your room's temperature. Ensure an appropriate one, not too high, but not too low either. 18 degrees Celsius should be a comfortable sleeping temperature. So now that you've prepared your room, it's time to fall asleep. Lie in bed in your most comfortable pajamas and start breathing slowly and deeply. Feel the muscles in your face relaxing. Remove any tension in your forehead, jaw, and around your eyes. You can do this easier if you lie on your back, as this helps your head, neck, and spine to rest in a neutral position. Feel your body relaxed and soft. Drop your shoulders as low as possible. Move forward with loosening the upper and lower arm on one side and then the other. Breathe in deeply and exhale slowly to help your upper body relax. Remove any tension from your legs, starting from your thighs and going to your lower legs. After 10 seconds of relaxing your whole body, it's time to clear your mind. Picture yourself lying in a canoe on the most serene lake beneath the blue sky. Hear the gentle sounds of nature. If you're not afraid of darkness, you can imagine yourself in a black velvet hammock in a completely dark room. Feel the warmth and comfort. Another way is to tell yourself for 10 whole seconds, don't think, don't think, don't think, over and over again. Completely relaxed, with a calm and empty mind, you're now ready to fall asleep.
All right. Welcome, Lorraine. So that was military sleep technique. I actually saw a presentation from some people who teach to the military when I was doing it. And basically it's relaxing the muscles from the top down to your feet. One at a time is a big part of it. All right, so that's the review from sleep. Any thoughts from last week or from sleep or from the video?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a question for you, Michael. Do you have a video on civilians falling asleep?
A video of civilians?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing is, it's almost like I was trying to follow it, but it was like a full-time job on its own, like the whole process.
Oh.
You have to, I'm like, is there an easier way to fall asleep than?
Yeah, I can send you some. Yeah, I watched a lot prepared for last week. Yeah, that one was just 3 minutes, so that was a good. I thought that would be a good one to show. The others.
I said, so I'm just messing with you.
No,
If you want to find it easier, let me know. I just want to close my eyes, and it's good night. That's a lot of work, Michael. Yeah, I'm on it. All right, thank you.
Okay. Any other thoughts? All right, so we'll get into this week's lesson. 7 types of sleep. 7 types of sleep. Let's see. Angel, you had Matthew 11:28-29.
Yes. Come to me, Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls.
All right, so there's Jesus. So he's not talking about rest when we get to heaven. He's talking about a rest here on earth. So what are some reasons that people don't rest? What are some reasons that people don't get rest?
Anxiety.
Anxiety. Yes, stress.
Tasha's with me. Stress.
Hey, Tasha.
How you doing?
Stress. Good. Welcome. Good to see you. Well, good to hear you. Stress. Any other reasons?
Just too much on your mind, or thinking about all the things that need to be accomplished.
Yeah.
Or having ideas. When you're trying to sleep, it's like sometimes that's when the ideas come. So you get up and write them down and let them go, or you worry about them, or not worry about them, but think about them.
Right. Yeah. Restless mind. Yeah, definitely. Any other thoughts?
You're angry. You're trying to sleep angry. Going angry on what is the verse? Don't go to sleep angry.
Yeah, don't go to sleep angry. Don't let the sun set on your anger.
Yes.
Don't let the sun
But what
set.
if there's no sun and there's just the moon?
Or if you're
it's set. Never mind.
or if you're in Alaska and it's dark for 6 months. You could all right.
Having tea or coffee very late in the day.
Yes, having tea or coffee, caffeine. Yeah, keep you stimulated. Definitely. Yes.
Too late.
You eat too late. Yeah.
Acid
reflux, indigestion. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so there are a lot of reasons. They did a...
It's too hot in the room.
Too hot? Right.
Because your roommate likes it hot.
Yeah, that was one of the tips. 65 degrees or a cooler is better in general. I know some people said they can't sleep when it's too cold, but they say cooler is better. Not too cold though. Too cold is you can't sleep either. So they did a survey on rest, and they see why people couldn't rest. So some reasons that people gave, some of the top reasons they they don't rest. So not just sleep, but rest in general was they feel guilty. They don't know how to. They can't switch off their mind. They can't detach from technology. And they're overcommitted. They're overcommitted. So we mentioned one of them, can't turn off your mind. And yeah, can't turn off your cell phone. They're just sitting there scrolling, or TV. Can't turn off the TV. A lot of people don't rest because if you're overcommitted, you got too much to do, and you don't go to sleep. So resting, Jesus promised us rest is not just physical rest. So resting is renewing when you're depleted, it's renewing physically, emotionally, mentally, and your spiritual reserves. And so they in studies where they taught people how to rest and gave them rest, some of the results that people claimed to gain when they learned how to rest were that they felt more humble, they became more authentic, they were more themselves, more courageous, more restored. They had more perspective on things. They had more hope. They had more purpose and more clarity. They were more creative. They made more effective decisions. They prioritized more effectively. They were more honest and had more integrity. They had less stress and they were less reactive. They valued relationships more. They were more genuine and they were gentler. So a lot of those traits would help us be more Christ-like. A lot of those traits would help us be more Christ-like. So we want to learn. We're going to talk about how to rest. Learn how to rest. Learn how to rest. So a true definition of rest is it encompasses everything. So you're physically well rested, you're feeling mentally ready, you're feeling emotionally fulfilled, you're feeling creatively recharged, you're free from stress and anxiety. And that's not a state that we're in often, or at least that I'm in often. But that is something we can strive for. And so we're going to look at the 7 types of rest. 7 types of rest, again, are physical, spiritual, mental, sensory, creative, emotional, and social. All right. And so here's a video talking about rest. I've shown a few from this guy. He seems to do a video every time I get a subject. But anyway. All right.
Getting yourself out of fight or flight mode. Flight mode into a state of recuperation. Technically, it's called the parasympathetic nervous system. To do this, you have to understand what gets your body there. It's different for different people. Some people need to play an aggressive sport so that when they lay down to rest, they sleep really well. Other people need social time, physical contact, a book, a relaxing walk, a marathon, or an ice bath. It's very dependent on the person, but it requires a lot of self-observation to understand what really triggers you into a resting state. Most of us aren't experimental enough in trying different recreational activities to figure out what gets us into our healthiest states of rest. You rest.
All right. So it's different types of rest for different people, but there's also different types of rest depending on the type of fatigue or the type of exhaustion that you have. So the area that you're pouring out most, that you're most deficient in, is the area you need to rest in the most. So it may be physical rest that you need, but it may be other areas. Maybe you're emotionally tired. Maybe you're socially tired. So you need to figure out how to rest in that area. And we're going to talk about that today. So you need to figure out how to rest in the area that you're most drained in. So sometimes it's sleep, but sometimes it's more. Sometimes it can be, sometimes recharging may be going to hang around certain people. Sometimes it may be a walk on the ocean. Sometimes it may be playing on radio. Sometimes it may be turning off sounds. So we're going to look at the different ways based on the different type of rest you need. So what areas you're depleted in. So we'll start off looking at burnout. Let's see. A lot of videos today. I'll play this video on burnout. She is a Christian, although she talks about Mother Nature here.
burnout. It's because you're not paying attention to life. You're not listening. Because Mother Nature's trying to show you the rhythms and the cycles of life that need to be honored. If you could just look out your window right now, maybe you would see that the seasons are changing. And it's trying to show you that all life, in order to bear fruit, in order to thrive and to grow, we need rest. You know, we don't expect flowers to bloom all year or trees to bear fruit. We recognize that they need to lose their leaves, their fruit will fall, and they go inward for winter. But we expect ourselves to produce at the highest levels and never get tired. But we're no different than the trees. So let us learn there's value in resting. There's so much value in going inward. Let me tell you why you're burnt out. It's because you're not paying attention.
So there's value in resting. So burnout. So we're going to talk about burnout now. Burnout. So has anybody ever experienced burnout?
Dead week.
Dead
Dead week in school.
Oh yeah, dead week. Yeah. Yeah, burnt out in college. Yeah, you get
Yes.
burnt out.
Taking the bar exam. Taking the Coast Guard exam.
Wow. You've been examining a lot. Yeah, it can burn out from studying. So people burn out from their jobs. People burn out from study, from school. People burn out from ministry. Was somebody saying
Online
something?
dating.
People burn out from online dating. Yes, you can burn out from the dating scene.
You can be burned out by your 3-year-old.
Yeah.
You know? You're
Yeah.
home with them there. You'll be so burnt out. As your spouse comes home, you want to hit the door and run for your life for a minute. Yeah.
Yeah. You can be burnt out from your field. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, a lot of areas you can be burnt out from. You can be burnt out from. And so a lot of people even burn out when they've achieved a high level of success and they're at the top of their game. And a lot of people will burn out then because they no longer enjoy it. So you can be burnt out but still be effective, but it doesn't mean you're not burnt out. You can still be burnt out. So you can become an expert at producing even when you're not enjoying it. You know, you can produce even though you're not enjoying it. So we have to figure out what areas we're depleted in and learn how to restore those. And so we talked about different fields. So different fields get depleted in different areas. So some careers are prone to emotional burnout, such as nurses, caregivers, social workers, teachers. They're prone to have emotional rest deficiencies. But then you have senior leaders, people who are leaders in companies. They're prone to emotional rest and creative rest because they have to always be on. They're always have to have their game face on. They're always moving. They're always ready for a call, ready to jump into action. Ministry leaders, they get burnt out. They get burnout. They get emotional burnout, spiritual burnout. Well, that's one of the greatest traps of the enemy is to burn spiritual leaders out. Actually, our last pastor, Brian, he wrote a letter talking about care given to pastors or not being given to pastors right before he left. And so, a lot of areas can burn out. And also people who have bad tempers, it may be a result of burnout. They may need social rest and emotional rest. So burnout is a problem that we can all face. Burnout is a problem. And so I'll start off with so we're going to get into the specific areas, but I'll start off with a general. Next week we're going to go into spiritual rest, but a lot of these areas, quiet time will actually help to restore you and revive you in that area. So a quiet time, spending time with God, spending quiet time in prayer, time reading the Bible, time worshiping, time getting into God's presence can actually restore you, can actually refresh you in many of those areas, in many areas that you're burnt out in. And I actually have an example of that last week. doing a lot of so I guess you guys know I've been doing a lot of these videos on social media. So I started out doing just kind of playing around, just fun. You know, I would do one every now and then, and it was just like, just if I thought of something, it was fun. But then all of a sudden, when you start getting followers, it's like, okay, you have to put out so many videos in order for the algorithm to keep showing you. So then it became like, oh, as a responsibility, I've got to, so it's like now I've got to be creative and come up with stuff. And so just kind of burnt out on it. And that actually got to a point where I kind of was stuck at the same number for months, the number of followers. And I was, last week I was taking a walk and I said, okay, let me this hour while I'm walking, let me figure out, you know, let me practice this and figure out a good way to do it. And then I decided, you know what? I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to worship. I'm just going to listen to worship music, walk by the lake, and I'm just going to worship, you know, and I'm not going to worry about that. You know, I'm just going to rest. You know, I'm teaching on rest. So I need to rest. So let me just rest. And so I did, you know, I went on my walk, and then at the end of the walk, I felt like, oh, well, let me make a video. So I made a video. It was 15 seconds. And then, you know, and I felt, you know, I was inspired. But then the next day I woke up and it was like, it had 30,000 views. I was like, oh, what's going on? I had like 4,000 likes. And so like I finally like jumped, started growing followers again. You know, it was like after, you know, instead of like figuring out what to do, it was like, okay, let me just worship the whole time. And then I felt inspired to do something. And it blew up, and so that's what rest can do for you. Rest can, you know, just give it to God and rest. All right. Okay. Let's see. Any thoughts before we go to physical rest? All right, so let's go to physical rest. Physical rest. Physical rest is when your body is tired or you're hurt. You need physical rest. So we'll look at the NBA. All right, who's the greatest basketball player of all time?
Ooh, Kobe,
Michael Jordan,
Johnson,
Michael Jordan,
Michael Bird,
LeBron
Michael Bird.
James,
Lorraine Schroeder.
Tasha.
Okay, I heard all of them except the last one. I'm
It's good.
not sure what team she played for, but Lorraine Schroeder. I don't know what team she was on, but anyway, yeah. So a basketball game. They're playing this year. They're playing 82 games, and the average game is 48 minutes. 48 minutes per game, a single game. So a game is 48 minutes, and so these players are making millions of dollars. And each game is a 48-minute game. So Michael Jordan, when he played per game, he averaged 38 minutes. So the game was 48 minutes long. He only played 38 of those minutes. LeBron, you mentioned, Tasha, the game was 48 minutes long. He only averaged 38.6 of those minutes of playing. The rest of the time, he sat on the bench. You know, the star players, they sit on the bench. So he's sitting on the bench 10 minutes of 48 minutes. Steph Curry, he averages 34 minutes per game. He's sitting on the bench 14 minutes of every game. He's a star player. He's the highest scorer. But for 14 minutes of the game, he's sitting on the bench resting. So athletes, they have an off season. And so they realize there's a cycle of training and resting and competing. Training, resting, and competing. So the athletes playing at the highest level realize they have to rest. And so why don't they play the whole game? Why don't these athletes play the whole game?
Burnout.
Well, you don't want your best out there either because they may get hurt, and you want them to be kind of like when you need some points, you want to wait till the end to put them in.
Yeah, you don't want to get burned out. You want them to be ready when you need them. But yeah, so the coach, and so some of them, sometimes they'll want to play. You know, sometimes they'll want to play, but the coach won't let them. The coach won't let them play. And so the coach won't let them play because he knows that, okay, they will score more points this game if we let them stay in, but they won't be able to play as much in the next game, or their career may be a little bit shorter, or they'll risk getting injured. And they'll risk getting injured if they stay in the whole game. And so the coach is looking out for them by making them rest. And that's kind of what God was doing for us when he gave us the Sabbath. He forced us to rest because otherwise we would burn ourselves out. So we all need physical rest. If the athletes need physical rest, we need physical rest. And so physical rest, we talked about sleep. So we know we need sleep. But other types of physical rest can be stretching, can be a massage. Kikwa mentioned last week, can be, or something called body fluidity. So body fluidity is not letting your body stay in the same position for a long period of time. So don't let yourself be static for a long period of time. So take a break every 90 to 120 minutes. So be in a different position. So if you're sitting in a chair that long, get up. And then also to address any pains as they happen. So if your eyes, you have eyes, maybe you can look out of the window for a while. If you have neck pain, get up and walk around, address it immediately, instead of at the end of the day being sore, to mix it in with your day. And so body fluidity. And so we realize, we may say, oh, well, I was in the groove. I was in the groove. I don't want to break away, but you'll realize you're more productive when you do take these breaks. Just like athletes, they're more productive in the time they play when they do rest. And so it'll be the same with us. When you do take these breaks, when you actually do work, you even though you feel like you were productive, you'll be more productive if you're rested. Yeah. So has anybody ever been really tired and they went to sleep and they woke up and they still felt exhausted?
If I wake up too early and I don't get the full 8 hours, then yes.
Yeah.
If I go to sleep because I've been studying too long, and then I go to sleep and I wake up 3 hours early, then I got a headache and I'm still tired and I just don't want to get up, but you pull yourself out. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, if you wake up too early, what were you going to say, Kikwa?
Yeah, when I have too much sleep is when I feel really tired.
Okay.
But that's because I operate on consistency. I normally get almost about the same amount of sleep every night. I stick to a schedule, but there are times when I'm not feeling well, or I woke up in the middle of the night and couldn't go back to sleep. But then instead of getting 8 or 9, I've gotten 10 or 11 hours of sleep, and I'm extremely tired. It's too much sleep that makes me tired.
Yeah. So too much sleep can make you tired. Yeah, and sometimes, and also we talked about last week, if you wake up in the middle of a REM, if you wake up in the middle, so there's 4 stages. There's the transition from sleep to rest, there's light sleep, there's deep sleep, and then there's REM sleep. If you get woken up during the deep sleep, you're going to just feel super exhausted if you wake up during the deep sleep period. All right, so there's a Dr. Dalton. She specialized in burnout, and she had patients coming to her telling her that they were tired. And so she checked things like their thyroids, their electrolytes, checked their blood work, and 85% of the people she met with, all of that was fine, but they were still exhausted. And she said as a doctor, the only tool she had left was to tell them to sleep more. But then she realized, well, that's not all. There's more to there. Then she realized there was more to it than sleep, and so that's kind of where she's the one that has these seven types of rest that you need. So the next type of rest we'll talk about is mental rest. Mental rest. So mental rest, you'll find when you're exhausted and your productivity gets really low. When you've been studying, when you've been working hard, when you've been doing a lot of brain work, you get mentally tired. Your brain is only 2% of your body weight, but it takes 20% of your energy every day. And so we can need mental rest. One is if we're striving off of significance, we're looking at the quality of our work, we're looking at doing excellent work, we're looking at we need to make progress in order to feel good. We have to have some results. In order to make us feel good, in order for us to feel self-worth, we'll just keep going and pushing ourselves. We feel good when we accomplish something. And some people, when they're busy, we get adrenaline, and they get addicted to that adrenaline of being busy. And so in the anxiety, they get addicted to the anxiety, and they need that, and they thrive on that, and so they can never slow down, and so they need mental rest. A lot of times we find this in the workplace. So they did a survey, and over 50% of the people blame their insomnia on work. So they couldn't sleep. They said it was because of work. And in a study on Stanford, they found that the fifth biggest cause of death in America is work related. So not necessarily accidents happen, but just the stress or things related to work, somehow related to work. And in the workplace, it's looked down upon to rest. If you took a nap at your desk, you'd probably get fired. Resting is looked down upon, it's frowned upon. Whenever somebody say, "Hey, how you doing?" "Oh, I'm busy." "Oh, I'm busy," and it's kind of like a pride we get when we tell us like, "Oh, I'm just so busy. I'm just so busy." And our culture prides itself on being busy. You can tell people that. You can tell people you're busy, and no one's really gonna look at you negatively. It's like, "Oh, how you doing?" "Oh, I'm an alcoholic." People are like, "What?" But "Oh, I'm busy." It's like, "Oh, it's like people wear it as a badge of honor." And so some symptoms of mental rest deficiency or mental exhaustion are when you try to go to sleep, kind of as Angel mentioned, you can't turn off the conversations in your head. You can't turn off the conversations in your head. You don't have any downtime. You can't have downtime. When you're mentally depleted, you get easily distracted. You may react impulsively. You lose threads of conversation or threads of thought. You can't see the downstream implications of things. So you're not really looking at the long-term results of things when you're mentally exhausted. And you make unwise decisions when you're mentally exhausted. Some solutions when you're mentally exhausted are, if you're at work, take a break. Set a reminder. Break every 90 minutes, 2 hours. Take a break if you can, if you have a job that allows that. Set an app where you can take a break. Or take a study break. If you're studying, take a study break. Schedule a break every 2 hours. Every 2 hours, schedule a break. Or if you're sleeping, as Angel mentioned, keep a notebook and jot down your thoughts. Because if you jot down your thoughts, then your mind can release it now, because it kind of feels like it's being taken care of. So we can get a rest from doing, a rest from performing. And so a mental rest, try to sit in a room without your phone for 5 minutes. Try to sit in a room without your phone for 5 minutes. All right, any thought? Well, let's see. All right, I'll play the video. This video of mental rest.
If you want to be productive, you have to learn to differentiate between work and rest. Limbo, or purgatory, isn't a mystical place that exists in the afterlife. Limbo is the place you put yourself in when you're unable to work but unwilling to rest. This is one of the most destructive places to sit. This is where 6-hour Netflix binges are born and dreams go to die. It's a form of escapism that keeps you from recovering and doesn't move you forwards in your work. You have to teach yourself to be more binary in your choices between work and rest if you want to get more out of it. When you're too tired to work anymore, you can't sit at your desk promising yourself after a little more mindless entertainment you'll get back to work, because you could stay there forever. You have to learn to fully step away from the work. so that you can recover enough to step fully back into the work when you're ready. If you want to be productive, you have to learn to differentiate between work and...
All right. So differentiate between work and rest. If maybe step away if you're feeling you're not productive, and rest. So actually have rest as an item, as a scheduled item. So any thoughts on mental rest, work depletion?
Yeah, I think you have asked about, when someone is interrupted in their sleep. I mean, if you may sleep for several hours, and depending on what time you wake up, I have a hard time because sometimes some of the hospitals, discharge managers from Kaiser or from Good Samaritan might call me, the night they're desperate. Can you help us? And once somebody calls me, it doesn't matter what time of the night, I'm done. And if I have to wake up early that way, the rest of the day, no matter what I do, I can drink all the coffee in the world. You feel this almost like a sick symptom, but you you didn't get any sleep.
Yeah.
Next night is automatically trying to go to bed a little early, and then that's the only way to fix it. Another thing that I have experienced is, as long as I'm in this part of this world, I mean in America, my mind can't turn off at night. I have to find remedies. There's just so much commitments and prompt, either to your clients or to your family, or things you forget. You're constantly trying to search your mind when you lay in bed at night. But as soon as I travel to my country, Nigeria, when I get there, that's the end of it. I will fall asleep like a normal person, no medications, nothing. But as soon as it's time to travel back to States, everything renews instantly. When I get in here, I'm back to a different person. No sleep doesn't cross my way. I have to fight to sleep. But once I'm there, it's almost like somebody turns off that switch. So I had a client a couple of days ago from Middle East. He's an older guy. His mother was very sick, and I was just talking to him about, your mom are you gonna take him back to Middle East? Because she's in her late 80s or even 90s. He said, well, there's nobody there. It's just me and her and my family here. And I asked him if he grew up in America. He says, no. I said, do you ever wonder what could have happened? I mean, when you go back to your country, do you feel any sense of peace? He said, that's the only place I go that I feel like I'm a human being. And if he had to do it all over again, this was a mistake. So for me, at some point, I had to realize as a youth, the excitement about going to America for a better life. Now, as a middle-aged man, it's a reverse now. Almost like if I had to do it again, would I do it? I'm not sure if I would take that chance, because there's a piece that you lost when I go there and see people on the street that have nothing. I see kids so excited, running around and playing. I see adults that literally see that they're poor. But there's a kind of a joy that I see in them that I feel like I wish I could take some of them from them. So I think it's about the society that we live. You always trying to catch up with something. You always trying to be somebody. Somebody wants something from you. So you don't even have time to go for a walk at the beach, or even when you're on vacation. I remember when I used to take my kids to vacation from work. You drive them to Disneyland from here, and they're at the park until 12 midnight. By 6 o'clock, they're ready to go back. So I came back to work one time. Somebody asked me, how was your vacation? I said, vacation. I said, I didn't go on vacation. This is my vacation at work. So it doesn't seem like, that's why people are so sick.
Yeah.
All kinds of illnesses and disease. There's no time. But it is that we'll never take a moment to think about what is it that is driving us to acquire all these things. And when you go to nursing homes, this is the one secret about America that people don't realize until it's too late. You will see so many people just dropped off by their families. And if you ask these seniors, do you have a family? Some of them will tell you, I have about 5 or 6 kids. Why don't they come and see you? Say, oh, they have family, they're too busy. The same reason. And if you ask these seniors, they will tell you that if they had to do it all over again, they would have take more time with the families.
Yeah.
And we are all doing it only to have the regret at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So you find it as a family member, to these guys trying to fill up what the family has not done, but they're also making excuse for their family. They have no time to come. They're too busy with their work.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Heard a story about a man who was too busy to spend time with his kid when he was growing up, but then once he got older, so his kid grew up just like him. He was too busy to spend time with him once he got older.
Yes.
It's the culture of striving, but also it's kind of how we get our worth. We get our worth from what we achieve, what we can do. You know, if we feel like we're worthless if we didn't get enough done.
Exactly.
If we didn't. Yeah.
Tasha has something to say.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Tasha.
So, I know this might sound kind of, I don't know, but what I've been doing lately is trying to turn off your mind sometimes is, like he said, is difficult, especially with social media and then your agenda throughout the day. But one thing that has been helpful is that when you take if you take a shower at night, right, turn off all the lights in the house and in the shower. After you take your shower, just go to bed. Like, don't touch your phone. Just rest. And once you're in the shower, you are relaxing your body, and then you're more able to go and lay down, right?
Yeah.
It's just something, just make everything dark, and so you can actually rest your mind, even meditate on God or whatever, and then, go to bed.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, that was one of the things is because our biological clock, our circadian rhythm is light helps to synchronize it. And so one psychologist was saying that as Americans we go into the brightest room in the house, the bathroom, right? Brush our teeth right before we go to sleep. And so we're basically we're telling our bodies, hey, it's daytime. And then you go to sleep. Your body's like, wait, I thought it was daytime. But that's turning off the light is good. So that's actually the next point, the next topic actually could transition into sensory rest. So sensory, we have 5 senses: sight, smell, taste, touch, sound. So sensory rest deficit is if you have too much input from your environment, you can get overloaded. You can get overloaded with sensory. So you can go somewhere peaceful and it's just so much going on that you'll leave there all wound up, and just because of all this. It's like if you spend like a couple of weeks on the Vegas Strip, you're gonna be wound up because there's so many lights and so much sound and it's just so much going on that you can get sensory overload, and you need sensory rest. So you can need sensory rest, and so because from colors, from lights, from sound, you can get overloaded. And it can be from your phones. We have lights on our phones, on our computers. It could be conversations around you. Your roommates always got the TV going, always got the phone on, and so you can get sensory overloaded. Or in the workplace, we've got these cubicles now. It's like cubicles now, and so you're constantly hearing other people's conversation. There's lights everywhere. There's always movement. Always people walking around. You can hear them. You can see them moving, and there's never any quiet. And so you can get overloaded. You can get sensory overload. So some remedies for that, if you feel you're sensory overloaded, is darkness, as Tasha mentioned. So lowering the lights, and so as we mentioned, you don't want to have your TV, you don't want to have screen time right before you go to sleep. Yeah, don't look at your phone right when you go to sleep. Don't look at your phone right when you wake up either, preferably. But you want to have darkness, silence. You can close your eyes if you get sensory overloaded. Even if you're at work somewhere, you can just close your eyes for just a little bit of time, and help refresh you. You could turn off the radio when you're driving to work if you're sensory overloaded. You can unplug, your electronic devices, or not unplug, but unplug from them. Turn on your do not disturb to come on automatically at a certain time of night. And or you can, just intentionally have deprive yourself of all the sensory input. So the sensory rest. Any other thoughts on sensory rest?
Turn off your notifications on your phone.
Yeah, you turn off your notifications.
Yep. I put my phone on sleep mode, like about 11 p.m., 11:30 p.m. So only the people on my favorite list can actually get it through to my phone.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point, because a lot of people say, well, what if it's an emergency? So yeah, your favorites will still be able to get through that. So then now we have technology that allows that. So, people who are important can come through, or, their emails will show up, or text will show up. And so, yeah, that's a good point. We have technology to help us do it. So the technology that got us more distracted is also providing means to remedy some of the issues they've caused. Any other thoughts on sensory rest?
You said something about turning the music off on the way to work.
Yeah.
Music actually calms me. So for me to not have music, is not a good thing. While I'm driving, I have to have some sort of music on of some sort.
Okay. So that may mean that you have a creative rest deficit, which is our next topic. And one of the solutions for that is to play music. So let's see. What happened to this? Oh, that's not what I'm trying to do. Okay. All right, let's see. Does anybody know is any musicians in the house? Does anybody know what these things in the middle are? Rest, yes. Must be a piano player. Yes, rest. So in music, when you read music, there's notes. Some of the notes, let me put it back up. Some of the notes tell you what sound to play, but there are other notes that tell you to rest. So when you're reading music, it tells you when to play and it tells you when to rest. So in order to make beautiful music, you have to play and you have to rest. You have to make the sound, you have to produce, and you have to rest. If there's a drummer and all they do is do 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 for 4 minutes, you're like, that's probably not a good song. You have to rest in between notes. There's music and there's rest in between it. So in order to make beautiful notes, you have to rest. You have to rest in between. And so that's an analogy for our life. Is we have to rest. We have to pause. We have to pause at some point. Rest. And so now we'll look at creative rest. Creative rest. Creative rest is rest that you need when you're trying to come up with new ideas, or you may feel you have a creative roadblock. So what this can look like when you need creative rest, creative exhaustion, is writer's block. If you have writer's block, you're trying to write something, trying to write a paper, or if you can't come up with a good idea, you can't innovate, you can't think outside of the box, you can't come up with any new ideas, you may because you need creative rest. And when you're refreshed creatively, you feel awakened, like a childlike wonder inside of you. You feel inspired. Maybe you feel curious. You're curious about something, so it opens up your curiosity when you feel creative rested. So creative rest. So creative rest is a rest. How you get creative rest is appreciating beauty. Appreciating beauty can give you creative rest. So whether it's God-made or man-made beauty can help restore you, can help awaken your creativity, welcome your creativity. So some people need to create, some people don't need to create as much as others, but most people have to be creative or innovative at some points. And so some things that can inspire your creativity are things like an art museum, listening to a symphony or whatever type of music you like listening to. Lorraine, exactly. So will inspire you creatively. A theater event, or you can get your or creative juices flowing from singing. If you sing, if you dance, watching a movie, maybe taking in the beauty of nature, looking at arts. I know for me myself, I get inspired by poetry, by song lyrics, because I can write. Haven't written in a long while, but just like when I hear like clever lyrics or lyrics, it gives me inspiration. It gives me inspiration. You know, a lot of lyrics, because I get really annoyed when I hear lyrics and it's like, you could have just wrote that in the booth. You didn't, you know, you could have come up with that song in real time. That, you know, anybody could have wrote that. But when you hear something that's clever or creative, it inspires me. You know, I saw Hamilton a couple of weeks ago. That was, you know, I thought I was inspired by that. Sometimes a sermon, if I hear a sermon, because I'm in Toastmasters doing public speaking, so hearing like, if someone did something, you know, if it's a good sermon, they brought out something good, they presented it in a good way, it inspires me. Or worship music, a worship song can inspire me. Or taking a walk in nature, or sitting by the lake. Or I went to a conference. They had a Redemption, a 212 conference, where they brought in like John Maxwell, Chris. They had some like top-notch speakers, the top-notch music groups. And it just was inspiring and inspired me creatively to come up with things, you know, because it takes creativity coming up with, you know, the videos, coming up with lessons. It just, sometimes if you're not feeling inspired, it's like when you need to come up with a new idea, you need inspiration. It can also be art on your wall. Or they've shown that just having someone look at an image of the beach triggers the same things in your brains as if they were actually at the beach. So having pictures of what's beautiful to you, or listening to music that's beautiful to you. Let's see, what are some things that inspire you guys creatively?
So I was going to share with you that when I was younger and still in school and college and stuff, as the engineering brain that I have, I couldn't do math homework unless I had music playing.
Yeah.
So I also, you know, am a musician also, and so I don't know if that also took a play in that, but I kind of, jack of all trades, played sports and all that other stuff, so sports, I guess, was another way of getting all whatever I needed out, and then music, like you're saying, the sensory, and math was always fun for me. So I don't know.
Yeah.
All of it all combined together.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so it could be that inspire creativity. It could also be, I know some people use, like in studying music, it kind of like a white noise, because you have all the distractions of people walking and stuff, but if you have music, then you can just ignore it and focus. But so that could be that too, which is something different. It can allow you to focus, even though it's constant, but you can ignore it because you're expecting it, versus somebody just walking and making noises you weren't expecting it. But yeah, and like in the workplace, in the offices, you know, you can't expect people to look at a blank wall all day and be inspired. So maybe you can put up some images or something.
So the other thing I was telling Tasha is the two homes that I've owned, I've always had nautical themes. And like you said, when you have the ocean up on your wall, sometimes just looking at that makes you feel like you're there.
Yeah.
And maybe that's one thing too. You just said that you saw Hamilton.
Yeah.
You could, now that you're talking about this, you should watch In the Heights.
Oh.
And that, I just finished watching that this weekend. And a lot of it is about let me listen to my city kind of thing. And they just closed their eyes, and it was like,
oh, okay,
gave them rest and relief and happiness and all that thing.
Yeah. So creative rest.
I'm the opposite of Lorraine. I quiet.
Mm.
I get inspired by libraries, quiet places where like you can just hear the nothing, and that creates this creative drive for me. A lot of noise and things like that, I'm just not creative in. Like if there's lots of noise playing, I can't be creative. I have to listen to their creativity. But when I'm quiet, then that's when I can really allow the creative juices to flow.
Yeah. So it could be quiet. It could be to allow the thought to pop into your mind. Yeah, similar to quiet time. Yeah. So it's different for everybody. It can be different for everybody. But what's not creative rest is like going to a painting event. It's not trying to choreograph a dance or maybe even coding. It's not something where you have to be creative. So creative rest isn't doing something that draws from your creativity. Creative rest is letting the creativity put something into you. It's not drawing from the creativity. And so sing your song. So there's a quote someone said, don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive and go do it. Because what the world needs is more people who come alive. And so it's just speaking to creativity. And I'll play so this was the 15-second video I made after walking in nature that apparently, and I targeted towards the influencers, people creating videos, and apparently it resonated with.
Someone asked me, you think you're gonna save the world making these videos? A bird doesn't sing because it has the answers. A bird sings because it has a song. Someone asked me, you think you're gonna...
So that's creativity. So sing your song. All right. Any other thoughts on creative rest?
Some people like to garden.
Garden, yeah, garden. Definitely can clear your mind. Let's see. All right, now we'll get to emotional rest. Emotional exhaustion, that's when you feel worn out and drained as a result of stress. What it can look like is like you feel like you have no power, you're out of control of a situation. You feel stuck or trapped in a situation. So it's a feeling worn out or drained as a result of stress. So you can feel a lack of energy, a lack of motivation. You may have trouble sleeping when you're emotionally exhausted. You're irritable. You can have physical tiredness. You can feel hopeless. You can be absent-minded. You can feel apathy, not really care about other people. It can cause headaches. It causes a change in your appetite. It causes you to be nervous. It can make it difficult to concentrate when you're emotionally exhausted. It can cause irrational anger. It cause you to be cynical, pessimistic. It can cause a sense of dread, and it can cause depression. So there was a lot of emotional draining last year with the pandemic. A lot of people got emotionally drained. So who's ever felt emotionally exhausted? Nobody, huh? Okay. Yeah, so emotionally exhausted over time can lead to chronic being stressed out. It can impact your health. So it's caused by extreme emotion. If you have extreme emotions for a long period of time, it can be caused by emotional roller coasters if you're going up and down. But then there's another type of emotional exhaustion, which maybe should be a different category, but it's from people pleasing and not being authentic. is emotionally exhausting as well. When you're always performing, you're always putting on a show, and then also code switching, which I'll speak to in a minute. So when we sheltered in place, there was a lot of emotional exhaustion, a lot of emotional roller coasters, had a lot going on in the news, a lot going on in the media, a lot going on in the house with the people you were with. There was a lot going on, or a lot of emotional roller coasters. And mentioned that, you know, some job, teachers, caregivers, nurses, parents, social workers, they are prone to emotional exhaustion.
And that can also lead to cancer and different types of things. As I can attest to that because I have been through that as well. Emotional exhaustion.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, a lot of health issues, And so another type of emotional rest can be just the people pleasing, wearing masks. When we wear masks, we wear a mask. You know, we wear one mask at work, we wear a different mask at church, we wear a different mask around our friends. It could be draining. You know, when you have to put on airs, you have to pretend. There was and I know, like, this one pastor was talking about how in the hood you always had to be hard. If you're in a tough neighborhood, you know, people always look mad, but it's like you have to look mad so nobody will mess with you. You know, you have to look hard. There was a song about a coup. The guy said, I always pull a front. So pull a front means you're faking. He said, I always pull a front so nobody pulls my card. I keep a mirror in my pocket and I practice looking hard. So he's like saying he practiced looking mean so that nobody messes with him. So it's like you always have to, so we have to put on a different face, a different appearance in different environments that can be emotionally draining. And leaders have to do that. If you're a leader, if you're a leader of a group, if you're in authority, then people look up to you, then it can be emotionally draining because you can have emotional deficit from always living up to what people expect from you. Then I mentioned you can have an emotional deficit. There's also code switching. Does anybody know what code switching is?
Is that a computer term, Cody?
No. It's okay. So code switching is so the Urban Dictionary says it's customized style of speech to the audience or group being addressed. So it's basically a way of changing your speech or your behavior based on the group you're in. And so I remember I saw a criticism. People were criticizing about Barack Obama because he was one time he was speaking at a black church, and at the black church he was speaking kind of how the black preachers speak, speaking more different than when he was, but that's kind of what code switching is sort of when you're in the workplace, you put on a different persona than when you're with your friends, and code switching. So I know a lot of black people talk about how the fact that when they go to work, they put on their professional persona, and it's code switching, and that can be exhausting. You know, we put on, a lot of church people will put on our church persona when we go to church, and so that can be emotionally exhausting. And then another thing that's emotionally exhausting is the social media. It's interesting. It can be, so I never thought about this before, but how you scroll, like if on the social media apps, basically you have a timeline for those of you who aren't on social media, and it shows different people, what different people post, and different people are posting different things. And so you can scroll through your timeline. You're seeing friend A, then you see friend B, friend C. But so you can, and I heard a preacher talk about this, but then I actually saw it in person. So I went to brunch with someone, and they were on their timeline, and they're going, "Oh, so-and-so died. Oh, that's so sad. Oh, look at that. Oh," and then like they're just switching from grieving to happy to jealous to this, just like within like a minute we're switching from one emotion to the other, and it's like social media just allows us to do that, and I don't know if we had that before. It's like we're just switching from one emotion to the other, and that can be emotionally draining. And so some solutions to that. One is to rest from the people pleasing and the impressing, trying to impress people and be authentic. Another is to set boundaries. Another is what Tasha mentioned: silence or stillness. If you're emotionally drained, you can sit still, or you can go for a long walk. And so emotionally draining, being authentic can help with emotional draining. If you can be authentic, or even if you can find someone who you can be authentic with. So having someone where you can be yourself with can help with your emotional rest. Find someone who you can be yourself, who's not going to judge you. That will help you get emotional rest. So ask yourself, when or with whom do I allow myself to be truly authentic? With whom can I let it all out? Who knows the real me? If you have someone who knows the real you, that can be emotional, that can provide emotional rest. And then also we talk about having accountability partners. Accountability partners is, someone who is a true friend who you can open up to. And that allows you to have emotional rest. And then there's quiet time with God. You can always be authentic with God. And there's social media breaks that you can take. All right, any thoughts on emotional rest?
Yeah, Michael, for me, sometimes when I find myself in a situation where I can't find that rest, or find a way to kind of calm myself down and take, relax. That's one of the ways that I was able to come to Christ. I just felt like I was trying to do, but I tried everything I know, and I started to almost like a submission to the Word of God. I called on the Holy Spirit. I desperately need you to give me peace. I don't want anything else at that moment. I said, I just want peace. I was in chaos. And it was a couple of days later, for the first time I experienced it. So submitting yourself and really asking the Holy Spirit to help. Despite all the things, we have to do the part that we can do. All the things we're talking about. But I found out that I tried everything. It was my last resort.
Yeah.
And it came, it felt like somebody poured the cold water on a very sunny day on your body. And I can feel it, and deep down it is beyond what you can do yourself.
Right.
So that's one of the ways. It just came to me while you were talking.
Yeah.
I tried everything.
Yeah.
When I run into any challenges in my life, I try to do things I can do as a human being, but at some moments I'll come to my senses to ask the Holy Spirit to intervene, to give me peace. I can't control this right now. And then once I submit, I start to feel this sense of freedom. The circumstances haven't changed, but it was just something, this peace that allows me to get through it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's I've heard. Yeah, you hear multiple testimonies of people. Basically, you came to the end of yourself. It's like you tried everything you could try, and you couldn't get rest. You thought this would do it, and that didn't do it, and then eventually you give up and you submit to Christ. You give up and submit to Christ, and that's how a lot of people get turned to Christ. And yeah, And definitely, yeah, with Christ, through quiet time, we can find all of these types of rest. And then, yeah, next week next lesson we'll be talking about, actually, I guess it will be next year. Next lesson we'll talk about spiritual rest as well. But with these, yeah, so, yeah, turning it over to Christ. Turning it over to Christ, because a lot of times with these, especially like the mental rest and the doing, is we feel it's all about me. It's all about what I can do. It's all about what I can do, and then giving it over to God. It's not dependent on my efforts. Gives you release, gives you rest. All right, so then last one is social rest. Social rest. So social rest is when you're tired of interacting with people. You may need social rest. And so you may be exhausted from constantly interacting with people who drain you. So we can spend a lot of time interacting with people who drain us. And so people have influence on us. And some people you fail to differentiate between your interactions. You know, we have our work, we have our family, we have our friends, our colleagues, and a lot of times people are wanting different things from us, and they're pulling energy from us, and we can get drained. A lot of people are seeking us for support or resources or emotional support, and we can get drained. And we can drain, and if we're spending a lot of time around people that drain us, if you spend a lot of time around people that are negative, if you spend a lot of time around people that like to argue, if you spend around a lot of time around people that want something from you, it can be draining. Does anyone ever notice that when somebody yawns, you yawn too? You yawn too? Or do you know why that happens?
It's contagious.
It's contagious.
Because you want to be like your friends and you do it together.
Well, it's
something that, like, it's like kind of if you scratch your face, then somebody else is going to scratch their face. Like,
yeah, exactly. It is. It's exactly that. I mean, yeah. It's okay. It's yes, it's called mirror neurons. So it's something in our brain that we actually mirror other people's. We mirror other people, and we actually mirror other people's emotions too. And so we can pick up other people's emotions. So if you're always around people who are depressed and anxious, then you're going to pick that up too. Your mirror neurons pick that up, and you become depressed and anxious. And so
what happens if you know a person that doesn't get that emotions when people are sad? Like they are just mad all the time, and it doesn't matter whether people are crying or people are sad or there's a sad moment. They're just always just mad.
Yeah, well, that's a different issue, but that's they're not they're not empathetic. They're so it could be multiple reasons. I mean, it could be because they're hurt. It could be because they're hurt and they have emotional pain and they're scarred, and so, or it can, which can result in being focused on yourself. But then it could also be just not displaying. Some people also they just don't display emotions the way you expect them to display it. So some people may feel the emotions, they don't react the way that they expect you to react. It's kind of like those churches where they go, "Oh, you're free to worship any way you want. You're free to worship." But if you're just sitting there, they go, "Hey, why don't you worship?" It's like, I thought I was free to worship any way I wanted. So they may feel it, they just don't express it the way you expect it. But also they could not feel it at all. I mean, there's different reasons for that. It could be emotional trauma. It could be, there could be problems with people lack empathy, narcissists lack empathy. But that's that's something. Yeah, don't have any solutions for that one. But I do have solutions.
Exorcism.
Say it again.
Exorcism.
No, well, I don't know. I don't know the person or the people. But if you're lacking social rest, so you feel depleted by people, then some solutions would be to spend time with people you enjoy. Spend time with people you enjoy, and then also what we talked about for 4 lessons is setting boundaries. If you're feeling yourself depleted and it's being detrimental to you, then you want to set some boundaries. Associate with positive people. So people that renew you, make you feel restored, make you feel energized. Maybe people that are kind, encouraging, or easy to be around. You may say, well, hey, I don't know any people like that. But you have to look. But social rest is, being around people who are life-giving can give you social rest. But a lot of times we'll take those people for granted because the people who are emotionally draining will often demand our time. They're the ones who are asking for time with us, because maybe we're that person for them. Maybe you're the person who they go to be encouraging, to be life-giving. And so you have to prioritize spending some. So not necessarily, I'm not saying, don't hang out with these relatives or these people that are life draining, but prioritize also spending time with people who are life giving. Value the people that are life giving. Value the people who are life giving, who give energy, and so you'll prioritize that as something that you'll seek out to do. Spend time with the people who are life giving, because when you create connection with people, it creates oxytocin, which is the happiness hormone, they call it. And so when you create connection with someone, it helps refresh you. And so, but also take note of if you might be the person who's depleting everyone else, so you can work on that. But because we rarely leave people presence neutral. When you engage with someone, it's either you're engaged or depleted. And so you get socially energized, spending time with people who energize you, but also socially energized when you feel a sense of belonging somewhere, when you feel a sense of inclusion somewhere, when you feel a sense of being accepted somewhere where they accept you how you are, or when you feel like you're a part of a tribe, Unchained disciples, all right, so everybody get refreshed. Or if you social relationships you have can be social refreshing. All right, any thoughts on social rest? All right, I'll close out with how to rest. So first we'll talk about what doesn't work. What Silva talked about, sometimes vacations don't work, especially if we're achievers, because, we say, oh, I'm tired, I got to go on vacation. But then the goal of our vacation becomes, I want to have fun. So sometimes, you go on vacation, it's like, oh, we got to get up at 6 to get this trip and do this and stay out and make sure we get everything into it. And so your goal becomes to have fun. And so you come back more tired than you left. Has anybody ever went on vacation and came back more tired than when they left for it?
Yes.
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 When I went to New York, oh my God, it was like no rest.
It's sensory overload. Yeah.
Yeah.
Vegas, New York.
When we went to Disney World and we had to plan out every park and it had to be all timed out.
Yeah.
And that was crazy. Louisiana was a little bit like that because we had tour on this day, tour on that day, and then tour, and then bus, and then this and that. But there was one time we went to the refuge in Carmel, and that's a spa resort thing.
Oh.
And all day long we just
Rested.
went into the what do
Pools.
they call the pools, the different temperature pools.
Oh,
and then
yeah,
we went
yeah.
into the sauna, and then we sat by the fire on the Adirondack chairs. And
That
then
was
we,
rest.
Yeah, that was.
I don't think I've ever rested like that in my life.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, a lot of
I
us.
recommend that to everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, because we prioritize. We want to rest. We say, "Oh, I need a rest," but then when it comes down to it, we're like, "Oh, I'm never come back here. I want to do this." So we prioritize other things. We want to have fun, and so one way to do it is prioritize and rest. So vacation is not always the answer, but then so sometimes people want to, they get up, they're watching Netflix, they're watching TV, and so is sitting around watching Netflix, is that restoring? Is that refreshing?
Depends on the person.
Not for me.
Yeah.
It depends on what you're watching.
Yeah, exactly. So right. So it can be, but not necessarily. So it depends on what you're watching. You can't watch something that uplifts your spirit. You can watch something that teaches you something, and you may be refreshing. But a lot of times, people end up just binge watching a whole series. It's like, oh, next thing you know, they watched the whole series of this, and it's like, what part of you felt refreshed after you watched the Netflix series? So it doesn't always refresh you, and I would always when going on dates, they call them chick flicks. Somebody wants to watch chick flicks, and I go, why would you want to watch? Say, oh yeah, this is a really sad movie. We should go see it. It's like, wait. This is a sad movie. We should go see it. I was like, I don't get it. But some people, I guess they want an emotional roller coaster. They want a full range of emotions, and not just movies. Some people in life, they want a full range of emotions. Some people are used to drama, but that Netflix doesn't always refresh you. Were you gonna say something, Angel?
It could help spiritually. I just watched I binge watched The Chosen. I did.
Oh.
I did Sunday and Monday, I think, or Saturday and Sunday. So I watched both seasons of The Chosen, and it was spiritually. I mean, it was physically resting because I wasn't doing anything else, and it was spiritually resting,
Refreshing.
but also spiritually engaging and inspirational.
Inspiration. All right. Yeah. So it can be, but not necessarily. Then the other thing is we often distract ourselves instead of resting. We distract ourselves instead of resting. And let me play a video about that when we distract ourselves instead of resting.
If I were your enemy, I'd try to keep you distracted as much as possible. And everything that comes your way, I try to keep your attention in those directions so that you can't be still long enough to hear what God is trying to tell you. I want to encourage you with this one thing. Be still. And hear what God is trying to tell you so you know which direction to go in your life. I love you all. This is Z with Unlocking Greatness Podcast. If I were your enemy.
So the enemy wants to distract us. So we get distracted. We get distracted with the media. We get distracted with the news. We get distracted with social media. We get distracted and arguing over things that aren't important or focusing on things that are important, and we don't rest. So what is the solution? How do we rest? So the solution is, I've given solutions at each section, but overall the solution is to not to necessarily set aside a time to rest, set aside a vacation every 4, 6 months or once a year, to set aside a time to rest, or set aside, an hour at the end of the day, but to incorporate to create a lifestyle of rest. So to incorporate rest into your life. So you do it intuitively. So like, Lorraine said, maybe for you it's listening to music while you're on your way to work. It's like walking at lunch. It's getting a standing desk instead of a regular desk. So you're keeping your motion moving. So it's incorporating. It's closing your eyes when you get tired at work. It's looking out the window every every hour to rest your eyes, to focus your eyes on the distance. So it's incorporating a lifestyle of rest. So fixing it in the moment. So not waiting for a certain time to fix it, but fixing it all throughout the day, fixing it in the moment. It's intentional restoration. It's intentional restoration and it's body fluidity, as we talked about. So incorporating it into your whole day, having art on your desk, having, headphones to drown it out or headphones to inspire you creatively. So it's incorporating it into your life, making a lifestyle of rest. So for these 6 types of rest, the creative rest, the social rest, what were these 6 rest? Physical rest, the social rest, the creative rest, the mental rest, the sensory rest, the social rest. So factor those into your lifestyle. And then, we'll see in the next lesson that it's the same spiritually. God tells us to pray without ceasing, having a constant connection with God. So we want to create a lifestyle of rest all around. So let's walk in the way, let's seek the truth and live the life. All right. Well, let's see. Let me give you guys a couple of resources I'll put in the chat. They'll be on the website. But this is one is a quiz, restquiz.com. Will tell you which areas that you're depleted in. It will tell you which area you're depleted in. And then the doctor, she has a website called ichoosemybestlife.com. It talks about the 7 ways of rest. And in there, she has a podcast, talks about worship therapy, which we may talk about in the next lesson, worship therapy, where she actually walks people through listening to Christian music for rest, to gospel music, Christian music. All right, any other thoughts? Any thoughts?
How about some chamomile tea or some lavender scents?
Yes, that will work. Yeah, we looked at those last week for chamomile tea for rest and lowering anxiety. Yeah, lavender. Was it peppermint?
Eucalyptus, maybe? Mm-hmm.
Eucalyptus. Yeah, those will help.
So, Michael, I like the portion where you talked about the upper body, the video where they talked about getting, how to relax your body. And I use meditation apps. I know I started with Calm, the Calm app. Basically, it's just going through breathing exercises and then, body focus on how to get your body relaxed and your legs comfortable and so forth. But I also have another one with, I switched to Fitbit. Those have been helpful for me as well, where they have meditation apps where it kind of help you get a restful night of sleep, and also there's daytime meditations, and they include breathing as well. I think breathing is important too. Yeah, breathing is important, and we covered a bunch of those during the anxiety, but breathing actually when you're sleeping, Silva. So one simple thing to try is just the breathing. So 3 count in, then 3 count out, then 3 count in and 4 count out, 3 count in, 5 count out, 3 count in, 6 count out, 3 count in, 7 count out. That'll really relax you. So breathe in for 3, breathe out for 3, then breathe in for 3, breathe out for 4, and do that up to however long you can do it. That relaxes you. All right, so let's see. All right, Peter, you want to pray us out?
Sure. problem.
Oh.
Thank you very much. It's a good lesson. I think everything had to apply to me.
Oh, everything. Oops. I'll give you a little revive in the background. Okay, go ahead, Peter.
Help us to be a little more awake, a little more less overwhelmed with the things of this world, but to be overwhelmed with you in our lives. So, Father, we pray that you give us that wisdom, that understanding, and the ability to differentiate that. Lord, we ask that for those that are in need, sometimes through our life experiences, what we go through, we can actually be a God to answer to them. So the people that we bump into, Lord, we open, that you may open different doors for them, that we can help to just kind of guide and assist them, to help them see you. They may not be able to see you like us in the past, that we couldn't see you, but someone opened doors for us. So, Lord, help us pass that along the way, that we can glorify you in much areas. And Father, there are some of us are living in a world like kind of like a hamster inside a cage, where we buy things and we spend, and we buy and we spend, and we pay bills and we live. And it seems like as we count down the seasons of each year, we tend to add on the years, and next thing we know, a decade has gone by already. And it seems that, what did I accomplish besides certain areas of our lives to survive in this world? So, Father, we pray that you help us to refocus our thoughts in all areas, to cast all our cares upon you, and to be able to know that our purpose is not just to make money and to live in this world like that, but to really live in such a way, Lord, that is always honorable before you. Because in this world, Lord, everything that we make in this world, as we leave, other people may be able to use it, but some will have no use for it. So all our hard-earned efforts could be wasted. So, Father, let us cast our efforts and things that are treasures in heaven for those where the moth and worms will not be able to tarnish it. Thank you, Father, on a daily basis that you allow Michael to spend so much time into it. He's put a lot of efforts in all the series week after week. And there are times that you may help him to refocus. If he casts all his desires to get one lesson better than the other, help him to refocus his channel in you, Lord, that he can apply to. And let him bump into people that have different needs so that he can share different ideas, and let his academics come out to life so that he can share that with us. This is what God's been doing in my life. Let me open my life to you. So, Father, we pray that during this holiday, Lord, is a season for us to not only just teach people to rely on you, but to actually learn how to rest in you. We live in such a world at this time that it is just either maintaining or we're just trying to get ahead. And none of us are resting at this point. So, Father, help us to guide us in this area. Let us be an answer to those that are in need. And to back it up with your words, Lord, to refocus it on back to you. And so, Father, we pray that this evening we get a chance to rest. And during this holiday, Lord, we don't focus on the things that are in the world,
but rather give the joy of who God is into the lives of people that really need it. We ask all of this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Michael. It's a good lesson.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome job, Michael. Thank you again. Good job, Michael. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. All right.
Thank you, Michael.
Oh, you're welcome.
Merry
All right.
Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas. Have a great evening.